Hey everybody, this is McIntyre Art here with a time-lapse breakdown for the Black Templar painting. So first off, why am I doing a breakdown of a time-lapse? Well, when I first got started with digital art, I would look up time-lapses and speed paintings on YouTube and loved getting to see great paintings being made. But I would usually come out of them more confused than anything else. Time-lapses are super fast, so there's only so much you can make out, it's easy to miss important steps, and they usually aren't explained at all. My plan is to make breakdown videos for all of my time lapses to help people understand my workflow and my reasoning for doing certain things. Keep in mind, this is going to be my workflow for a quick painting. This is only about 5 hours long. My process is going to be a bit different for a painting that takes about 3 weeks. And even with a blank canvas, we've already begun the first step. Reference. You can see in the layers section, I've already got a few photographs here. For any painting I do, I've got a Chrome window open with several tabs of reference up. Usually by the end of a big painting, I've got over 30 tabs open. My god, it feels good to close out of those at the end. The main things I have reference for here are German Gothic suits of armor, since the Black Templars are much more Dark Ages looking than other Space Marines. Especially now thanks to Primaris Marines bringing in the tactical aesthetic, but that's a different video. The other references I have are for hands. Hands are very complex, and when you start adding armor on top of them, they just get even harder. So you really want to have reference for hands, especially because the two parts of a figure people are guaranteed to look at are the face and the hands. The face because people want to know who they're looking at and where that person is looking, and then their hands so that they can tell what they're doing. So never skimp out on hands and always have references for it. Now for the drawing aspect. I'm really just trying to get my proportions and perspective looking good before I move on. Not getting into detail because I'm just going to paint on top of the drawing anyway, so I'm being loose, moving things around when I need to, and getting ready for the next step. Here we've got the blocking or silhouetting step, where I check to make sure the figure's silhouette just looks nice. By that I mean, imagine the entire shape is pure black. You still want it to look nice. Because when people first look at something, they don't look at all the detail. They look at the overall shape first. So I'm adding in the candles and purity seals and trying to infer a sense of wind into them as well. This way the painting will still have some dynamic aspects to it despite just being a figure standing in place. Moving on, I'm adding the white of his pauldrons and tabard in. Not because they're supposed to be white, but because I'm trying to establish the relationship of his armor being darker than them. This is useful for when I'm going to put in the lighting. Of course, this bit is brighter, but you'll notice that the dark of the armor for his trim is actually lighter in the highlight than the light of his pauldron is in shadow. Ordinarily, I would set up a light and pose in front of a camera for a painting so I didn't get reliable reference for the lighting, but this is a quick painting so I didn't feel like it. So instead I set up a very simple light source that I've painted from reference several times before. That way I know how the light is going to act. Next we have color. Because he's black and white, I don't have to worry about local color, but if he were a blood angel, then I'd colorize his armor red where it should be red, black where it needs to be black, yellow where it needs to be yellow, and so on. Then I would do this. This is called a gradient map. It applies color based on the brightness of an area. So the super highlight is yellow, the midtones are orange, and the shadows are purple. This is really useful for two reasons. The first is that it will unify your local colors together. The second is that it establishes a color temperature for your painting. That way it helps to reinforce your shadows. If it's a cool color, purple, and it's dark, then it's a shadow. Obviously people know what a shadow looks like, but when you have the color temperature working with it as well, then people can really feel it. Next, a simple background that I'll work on later, but very important here. I put the Space Marine on his own layer. This way I can paint the background behind him rather than around him. So once he's fully painted, I can just work on the background, no problem. Now for the longest and most boring part, rendering. Sounds weird to say that rendering is the most boring part when it's the part where I'm actually painting, but it's true. We've got all this stuff figured out and I'm just having to spend a few hours making it look good. There's not much I can say for rendering either, unfortunately. The best advice I have for it is just look at as much reference for as much of a painting as you possibly can. My experience, if you paint something better than you've ever painted it before, you'll probably start there as a base for your next painting. It all just builds off of itself, so try to paint better than last time. Now to put in some small details like scratches, blood stains, and I guess you can call it a grunge layer. I tend to think of it as dirt, but it just adds a nice little bit of grit into the painting. Scratches are very easy, as scratches just imagine what's gonna get knocked around, and there you go. Touching up the background a bit, and now working on unifying the painting. I made the bottom of the painting a little less interesting so that I can better direct people's attention towards the Space Marine's face, where I added just a little more interest. Now we've got a mezzotint, or noise layer. This is a super important part and goes by really fast in the time-lapse, which is the reason why I made this video. Then on top of it is an overlay of some ink dried on paper. Let's see if I can patch that. Oh, there it is, right there. So notice I don't change the actual lighting. It's an overlay layer, and I change the levels of the light in the ink layer so that we can just get the texture from it. These both help to add an overlaying texture onto the painting, and it makes the whole thing feel much more cohesive. This prevents something from feeling digital. While digital art is by no means bad, having something look digital means that it looks fake. Non-digital art doesn't have this problem because it naturally has this texture. Painters have canvas and brushstrokes, drawings of paper and graphite, for instance. And finally, add these particles, just blowing in the wind to help tie together the figure with the environment as well, to help play up the wind effect. And with that, we are done. Hopefully this was helpful, or at least interesting. If I missed anything, or if there's something specific you want me to cover in a future video, feel free to let me know. I appreciate the feedback. For now, though, that's pretty much it. Thanks a lot, everybody, for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all in the next video. Have a good day.